This show is brought to you by Databril, the scalable Amazon PPC management for large Amazon sellers and brands. Visit sellersessions.com/agency for more details. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Today I bring in James Thompson. Hey James, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on today, Danny.
No worries. Can you give the audience a little bit of background on yourself? You're quite a busy man with events and you've got your own business, etc. You're a former Amazonian.
Yes, I spent 6 years at Amazon running a variety of different businesses. People might know me as the first FBA account manager. Some of the folks who have been doing FBA for 8 or 9 years used to receive my emails every week, emails that eventually became the selling coach tool that Amazon has. And then I went on to run Amazon Services, which is the group that recruits almost all sellers to the platform in the U.S. So I've been involved with Marketplace now for 11 years. I work now predominantly with brands, and I also run the Prosper Show, which is an educational event that many folks have attended over the last 3 years. So my life is pretty much Amazon and Amazon only. We do the Prosper Show annually in Las Vegas, and last year, or this earlier this year, we had almost 2,000 people attend. So we're very focused on how do we bring best practice education, continuing education, help sellers that are already fairly well established still get that extra edge by networking with each other, sharing insights, and hearing from industry experts about some of the pressing issues that are affecting online businesses today.
Sounds good. So let's keep the educational theme going here. I want to talk to you today about trademarking, brand registry, brand gating. So let's start by unpacking it. I mean, most people know what brand registry is. So just give us a brief walk through brand registry through your eyes, how you see it as an ex-Amazonian, and the benefits to your clients as well.
So while Amazon, how will I put this? Amazon does offer a few tools to help brands be able to be authoritative in the content that they provide. And the primary tool that is used is the brand registry tool, specifically aimed at allowing registered trademark brands to demonstrate that they are the rightful owners of the brands and then go about providing catalog content to the Amazon catalog in a way that they have content authority over all other third-party sellers. It sounds glorious. It sounds wonderful. Unfortunately, a lot of brands either don't have a registered trademark because they may not be what Amazon deems a real brand, or the brand may go through the process of getting brand registry, but then they make the rather significant tactical mistake of not then resubmitting all their content. So if one, in fact, is approved for the brand registry, all that does is give you a ticket to the ball. It doesn't make you, it doesn't actually lock down all of your content already. And so a brand has to be very, very logical and very disciplined in terms of how it then goes about using this new feature that's been provided to it to actually submit content and lock things down. We've seen brands actually go ahead and do the right thing of submitting their content after being approved for brand registry, only to discover that in their product feeds, they have a whole series of open or empty fields of data. Well, if fields of data are left open, somebody else can come along and fill those fields of data. So here's an example. If I have 2 bullet points, but there's more than 2 bullet points worth of opportunity for me to submit content, somebody else could submit content on the 3rd, 4th, 5th bullet point. Likewise, if I don't have a product description, somebody else can come in and impact what that content's going to be. So a brand that gets brand registry and uses it appropriately and in a way to defend its brand content, that is going to be a very proactive process where all fields of content will be submitted. As the brand launches new products, the brand will also be submitting content to make sure that that content gets locked down. And once that's all said and done, let me address one of the biggest misperceptions. A lot of brands think, oh, if I get brand registry, that's a distribution controlling mechanism. I can kick off all the unauthorized sellers now that I have brand registry. It doesn't work that way. Brand registry is a content tool, a tool for locking down content. And while some companies will use brand registry, the support group within Brand Registry to submit tickets to address potentially unauthorized or trademark violating brands. It's a very, very slippery slope. And I've seen brands actually lose their brand registry because Amazon believes that they are abusing what brand registry has been designed to do, which is to lock down content.
Okay, so just let's unpack that a little bit there. Because you think about it, there's like you work with larger brands, but you also got sellers on the marketplace that are going after brand registry. They've got one or two products they've just launched. They're new to the game. So in their eyes, it's like, right, let's whip up a quick website, put the barcode on, SKU information, etc. Make sure we've got half decent pictures as long as you show a part of the packaging or the main part of the packaging, etc. So they're doing just enough to get themselves through the door to meet the minimum requirement. In your experience, you're talking about submitting content. Are we talking about purely of all available feeds on a flat file that gets uploaded, or all the available fields within the back end that you would need to complete each and every time that you create a listing?
There are, let's say there's 40 fields of data that are used for your particular SKU. And of course, that number is going to vary depending on what category of product you're in. But let's say there's 40 fields of data. Your job as a brand registry owner, it is to use the opportunity to lock down the content in all of those fields. If you choose not to lock down all those fields, just be aware that there is some exposure and somebody else could come along and fill content in some of those fields that you've left empty. Now, realistically, if you get the bullet points, the title, the product description, all the generic keyword fields, if you get all that stuff locked down, you're in pretty good shape. And realistically, someone's not going to come along and say, oh gosh, I need to update the list price. Well, I mean, they might, but that's not really where the ill intent is usually applied if someone's trying to hijack your listing. So recognizing that we do brand registry not just because we don't want someone to hijack our listing, but also because we want to make sure that a third-party seller, authorized or not, doesn't do a lazy job of describing the product. And so we want to make sure that the fields that matter most to us are the very fields that we focus on making sure we get locked down.
Makes sense. Okay. And so can we then determine the difference between brand registry and brand gating?
Sure. So as I mentioned earlier, brand registry is really about locking down brand content. Brand gating is an attempt by brands to restrict who can or can't sell the products on Amazon. So it's a distribution controlling effort, rather than a branding controlling effort. Brand gating, for all intents and purposes, is a pipe dream. Very, very, very few brands get gated. And oh, by the way, gating only lasts for 12 months. After 12 months, Amazon turns it off and says you need to reapply all over again. And it doesn't matter whether you're a small brand, a medium-sized brand, or a huge brand like Nike that managed to get certain brands or certain products gated. After 12 months, those products are no longer gated. And so the brand has to go back through the process of applying to get gating. It's also important to understand that gating doesn't have the same universal meaning that many sellers would like it to have. If someone said to me, congratulations, your product's been gated, I may think, oh, great, so I'm the only seller of my product? Well, it turns out there's different levels of gating. And for Amazon, most gating that happens, and by the way, it doesn't happen very often, but most of the time when it does happen, gating means no additional sellers will be allowed to create an offer on a listing. But everybody who's already there still gets to continue to sell the product. So the process of using brand gating for specifically kicking off whoever's there, that's not what gating means to Amazon. Just to give you a little bit of background on gating, Amazon is an open marketplace, and as such, they want to have multiple sellers selling each item. Multiple sellers creates competition on price. Lower prices creates more opportunity for customers to be excited about the Amazon platform, and the Amazon flywheel continues to spin. When you start gating who can and can't sell certain products, it will stifle competition, and it will create a situation where Amazon may or may not be the cheapest destination for the product. And so if Amazon's intent is to make sure that it's always at or near the lowest price of any online or offline platform, retailer for that product, when you start gating, there better be a really good reason why you do that. In my experience, I've been involved in, probably a dozen and a half different gating scenarios. And in almost every situation, the product got gated only after a couple things happened. Number one, there was a long period of problems with counterfeit. We're talking, months and months and months of demonstrated efforts by others to counterfeit and list those counterfeit listings on the same product as the legitimate version. Number two, the product typically had to be something that was either consumed by the customer, like put into their body, or put on their body. That is to say, something that is likely to create some real long-term harm if a knockoff product is in fact used by the customer. So if you have the legitimate opportunity for physical harm to be caused to the Amazon customer, and this is all being caused by long-term repeated counterfeit efforts, then a brand may submit a ticket, almost certainly repeatedly, specifically for the purpose of seeking to get the product gated. And again, getting gated means whoever's already there still has the opportunity to continue selling the product. So in my view, brand gating is quite frankly a waste of time, because Amazon almost never gives brands brand gating. And secondly, even once they do, it doesn't solve the underlying problem of controlling distribution. And so rather than focusing on gating, which honestly 2 years ago was kind of the lazy man's approach to trying to manage distribution, what I prefer to do is to say, if I'm going to build a private label brand and I'm serious about having this brand in place, then I need to look at a couple of different options. Number one, I need a design patent on my product. If I have a design patent, then I have legal protection on the product. And to the extent that someone is making a knockoff that violates the design patent, Amazon is very happy to enforce design patents. So very few brands will actually go through the effort of getting a design patent. But if you do have a design patent, Amazon is very happy, as I say, to address that and remove counterfeits or knockoffs or whatever grades of inappropriate versions of your product are listed on Amazon. So the design patent is one approach. The other approach is, to the extent that you've got distribution of your product outside of your own account, and there are other people that have repeatable access to your product, that they could then turn around and put it on Amazon. I'd like to put an online reseller policy in place and work with an attorney specifically to have an online reseller policy, one that includes language around anti-diverting. That is to say, you as the brand do not want your product to be diverted to somebody else who in turn might sell it on Amazon. But if you have an online reseller policy, that is typically built around the basis of your trademark. So what are the criteria that you put in place to enforce trademark? 3 years ago, 4 years ago, everybody was talking about, it's a manufacturer warranty. That's my trademark. I have a manufacturer warranty and you don't, so you're violating trademark. That again is a very weak approach, and one where Amazon has aggressively gone after companies saying that this is a workaround that they're using to, again, try to get Amazon to enforce a distribution requirement. We don't like the manufacturer warranty as the basis of the trademark violation. And the attorneys that I've worked with, have told me that there are literally 70 different ways that you can enforce trademark, where you're looking at material handling, you're looking at temperature control of the product, you're looking at a whole series of different issues that may potentially cause an unauthorized seller to potentially be in violation of the trademark. If you're in violation of the trademark on one of these other bases, then what's happened at that point is the unauthorized seller is actually in potentially an illegal selling position. So in the United States, you have first sale doctrine, which is the legal mechanism by which anybody has the right to resell an item under normal circumstances, unless the brand can demonstrate that their trademark is being violated. And so by changing the rule, changing the mindset from, hey, you're unauthorized, don't sell my product, to, hey, you're actually violating my trademark, and you're now in a position where you may be violating the law, that's a very, very different and much higher accentuated level of effort on the part of the brand to protect itself. So I know I've been rambling here a little bit, but the whole concept of brand gating, in my view, is wishful thinking, trying to find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that most of us will never find. The bigger issue that's more applicable to all of us is to think about, what are we doing to control distribution so others don't have access to it? And if, lo and behold, others do have access to it, how do we reframe the concept so that it's no longer an unauthorized seller position that may require brand gating, but instead a trademark violation, which now, as I say, becomes a legal discussion where, quite frankly, most unauthorized sellers look at your product as being nothing more than yet another widget they can make money selling. So if you put enough roadblocks in place and demonstrate that there may in fact be a legal position that you have over that unauthorized seller, most unauthorized sellers are going to say, you know what, I'm going to take my money and go invest in some other brand's inventory. And at that point, as long as you're consistent in policing your online reseller policy, you'll be in a much better position to shoo away all of the riffraff resellers that you don't want to have on your brand.
Makes total sense. So let's talk about the thing that we've just been going through at the moment, is through the trademarking.
Yep.
Obviously now with Brand Registry 2.0, everyone
Yep.
requires a trademark. Pre-call, we discussed, for instance, you could be based in the UK, selling in the UK on Amazon, have a trademark over here, and you could use that trademark for the US. But there are particular types of marks and what gets qualified. From your position, what's the best route for people to go to apply and get a trademark? Is it use a lawyer? Would they do it themselves? I know that it's probably a broad question I'm asking here, because people have trademarks for different reasons. As I mentioned, a lot of sellers on Amazon purely get a trademark for Brand Registry. So from that point of view, what's your take on it?
If you are getting a trademark purely for the point of being able to register for Brand Registry, I think it's important to qualify, why are you selling a brand in the first place? If your product is ultimately nothing more than a generic with your own custom packaging on top of it, then you really don't have a brand. And what I'm about to say may philosophically differ me from a number of people, but I believe that if you are going to go through the effort of creating a brand, investing in your brand, and hopefully being in a position that your brand becomes attractive enough that someday somebody might want to buy out your brand, you need to think of it in the mindset of, this is an asset that I'm building long term, versus this is something I'm doing in order to get a checkbox in Amazon so that I can lock down my content. I recognize that there are thousands and thousands of private label sellers on Amazon who aren't interested in building a long-term brand, but rather are interested in building short-term cash flow that comes to them. I understand that. Even if you go through the process and get a trademark and then get Brand Registry, if there's no long-term intent in building up that brand with the potential opportunity to eventually exit and sell that brand to someone else, it's hard for me to get excited about people getting too worried about trademark, because really what they're doing is just trying to lock down content.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Obviously, they want to get access to tools as well. Things like enhanced brand content and stuff is generally another reason behind it. But no, it's good that, it's good to have opposing views on the show. It's very important, because we've had shows before. Is it worth selling off Amazon? We believe in building a brand, of course, but in some cases, depending on the size of your company, the amount of employees you have, and the amount of cash flow, in some cases, it makes more sense to start to build the brand on Amazon and take it off of Amazon once you've reached the stage of enough cash flow that you can actually have your own website and afford to drive traffic to it. Also, not forgetting that on Amazon, a lot of people are looking at the marketplace and looking for advantages on Amazon with products, but they might not be the same advantages on your own website. It's different if you're coming to Amazon from your own channels and treating Amazon as a channel because you've established yourself as a brand. Does that make sense?
Yes.
On the other way around, it's, I suppose there's, people have different mechanisms and different setups about their businesses.
I have a lot of experience working with brands that have grown up to be big enough that some private equity company will buy them out. And that is a very specific mindset where somebody is saying, I need to build all of the infrastructure around the brand, including trademark, including advertising, including long-term messaging and communicating what those brand promises are to potential customers. That's to me, that's what brand building is. I think the getting a trademark for the purpose of getting brand registry, that may be a check the box exercise, but it's not necessarily part of the longer term effort around is this a, and I put in big quotes, is this a real brand that's meant to have long term legs that eventually I have an asset here that can be sold. To me, inventory is not an asset. When I build up a brand and I sell somebody my brand, selling them whatever leftover inventory I have, that's not really the brand. I realize we're getting a little bit off topic from your initial question. Yes, you can go and get a trademark. Yes, you can use your own lawyer, or you can use some of the online tools that are available to fill out the paperwork. If you're looking to build a long-term brand, meaning a brand that eventually you might potentially package up and sell to someone who's interested in buying brands, in that situation, I would actually use a lawyer specifically because you want to structure your trademark in a way that you've identified what are the criteria within the trademark that are going to give you legal mechanism to potentially protect your brand further than somebody who's simply saying, hey, I need a trademark number that I can put in my brand registry application so I can get the check mark that I have brand registry.
Yeah, but this is the whole point of the conversation as well, is to unpick all this, to remove, shall we say, all the misgivings, because obviously, as I mentioned at the top of the show, people just assume brand registry is the holy grail, so they're in through the doors and they're protected. And this is why it's getting someone like you with experience to talk from the other side, to unpick this.
I think brand registry can be the holy grail if you're trying to lock down content and you have content already developed for most of the important fields of your listings.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that it's good for doing.
Yeah.
And while, you may read a seller form that says, hey, I have brand registry and I was able to get a ticket filed to get somebody removed. Okay, that's fine. But I will tell you from personal experience, if you use brand registry support to file too many tickets, even if you think you have certain types of legal protection, Amazon does not look favorably on companies using brand registry seller support specifically to control distribution.
Yeah.
They will argue that you're abusing brand registry. And I had a company approach me 2 weeks ago that lost its brand registry because they use brand registry primarily to control distribution, not to control content, but to control distribution.
Yeah. And I think the other problem you got as well is if, say, newer sellers getting into the game, they get, say, Chinese hijackers on their listing because often it may be that they've got Me Too products as well. They're easy to duplicate. They've not got proper packaging on. So that leads them into thinking they may be going to brand registry as well. So would you say at the very beginning, say, the people where they are now, they're going to prepare their business to sell. They're growing the brand. They'll eventually take it off Amazon if they haven't done so already, is to really start to think about their products in terms of being able to not only get trademarks, but be able to get patents as well on their products, because that makes it more defendable.
Amazon has shown a history of enforcing design patents. So if the brand has taken the effort and taken the time and cost to apply and receive a design patent on their product, in the United States, a design patent protects you for 14 years. Well, quite frankly, anything I build today, I have no idea where I'll be with it in 14 years. But 14 years is a very long runway. And so recognizing that design patents do cost thousands of dollars, but if you get one on your product because you believe in the product long term, it gives you a little bit more protection. Well, actually gives you a lot more protection. And more importantly, Amazon recognizes design patents. So as long as you can demonstrate that everybody else who's selling knockoffs, in fact, is violating your design patent, i.e., your lawyer should probably check first before you file all these tickets. But if you believe you have a strong case, you're not going to have to sue these sellers directly. Amazon will help protect your product by removing these other sellers if you can demonstrate that a design patent is being violated.
Totally makes sense. Okay, before we wrap, is there anything you'd like to add?
So I think there's one other tool that I want to talk about, and that's the Transparency by Amazon program.
Great, let's cover that.
So this is another tool that Amazon has provided brands in an effort to try to help brands further control the nastiness that might be occurring out there. Transparency by Amazon program rolled out in test form last year. It's now rolling out more extensively to more and more brands, but it basically is a program that says, all right, Mr. Brand, I recognize that you may have had some problems with counterfeit products being sold on Amazon. So we're going to give you a partial solution to try to reduce the amount of counterfeit product that is in fact available. And what the program does is the brand can buy batches of custom codes that get applied to the individual units of the product. So let's say you make a product, you make 1,000 units of the product. Amazon would sell you a batch of 1,000 numbers that you would put on each unit of that item. So it's separate from a UPC. It would go on the box next to the UPC. What would happen is when that product is received into FBA, Amazon recognizes that there's this additional code. You would have your products received into Amazon, and anybody else trying to submit the same product into Amazon, one that does not contain this transparency code, that product would not be accepted by Amazon. And so, at least to the extent that product is going into FBA, being handled by Amazon at some point, only the products that Amazon handles that have this code would be accepted. Unfortunately, the program is still new and still has a lot of wrinkles, but unfortunately, you still have the possibility that a fulfilled by merchant product from anywhere in the world, whether it's overseas, whether it's domestically, those same items, because they're not handled by Amazon, it's the merchant is actually sending directly to the consumer. Amazon doesn't get a chance to see whether there's a transparency code or not on the item. And so part of the loophole if you want your products to be Prime eligible and you're a counterfeiter and you still want them to be Prime eligible and you're not using seller fulfilled Prime, you're only using Amazon's FBA program, then the transparency program would shut your products out from being available on Amazon. I'm less interested in whether or not transparency by Amazon program is a final solution, because I don't believe it is. But I believe it's important to recognize that as long as Amazon wants to operate an open marketplace, there is this constant dilemma that Amazon faces. How do you keep it open to everyone without having to review every single unit of every single SKU that gets sold on the platform? And so I say this not because I ever drank the Kool-Aid when I worked at Amazon, but I say this because Amazon is a massive marketplace, and it's a constant challenge figuring out how do you protect every customer, how do you protect every seller who owns a brand and has trademark on the brand? How do you do that? And quite frankly, you often end up in a situation where you might want to throw the baby and the bathwater out, but that would mean you'd have no selection and no sellers on the platform. Yeah. So it is a constant battle of Amazon trying to develop a variety of different types of programs to try to play the cat and mouse game with all of the dangerous sellers that are playing nasty games. Amazon continues to try to keep up with them. I hope that Amazon continues to evolve a number of these programs they have in place to help sellers be able to protect their brands, be able to protect the authenticity and the validity of the products they sell. And as much as I want to say Amazon's to blame for all the nonsense that happens on Amazon, I fully recognize that it's a very, very tough uphill battle. And I worked with a number of the folks in the seller performance team, and I saw what they were doing. And, they have basically impossible jobs. How do you keep the marketplace open at the same time find only those nasty needles in the haystack and get them removed? So with that, I thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about brand gating and transparency and brand registry. This is all very complicated stuff, especially for somebody who's brand new to Amazon saying, I want to build a new brand and I want to make $1 million and I think my product's going to be amazing. Just remember that your product may be amazing, but unless you're prepared to invest upfront in the brand and recognize that paying lawyers, having lawyers on support long term somebody's going to come along and knock your product off in some way. And they'll knock it off either by making a counterfeit or making a cheaper, better version, just like you did as a private label seller. And so it is a constant effort of how are you going to continue to build your business and continue to make margin selling whatever it is that you choose to sell under your brand name.
Makes total sense. No, it's great. Thanks for coming on, James. What is the best way people can reach you? What the service is, etc. And we can also add these to the show notes.
So I run an agency called Buy Box Experts. We work with mid-cap brands that are large brands that are struggling to develop and manage an Amazon strategy. Folks can reach me at james@buyboxexperts.com. If they've got questions for me that we may not be the best people for because of my opportunities to meet a lot of great people through Prosper Show, I almost certainly have folks that I can refer them to. So again, james@buyboxexperts.com. Thank you very much for having me on today, Danny.
No, thank you. Guys, thank you again for joining us. James, thank you. If this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We'll see you again soon. Take care.